This garden used to look amazing, but over time it slowly turned into a sad, struggling mess. And if you've ever looked at your own yard and thought to yourself, why does this look so lifeless? Then this video is for you. I'm breaking down the most common reasons landscapes go from lush to lackluster and how to fix the root causes of it fast. And Chip's chiming in. First, this is something that catches a lot of people off guard. Your landscape probably did start out looking great, but over time, things started to struggle and fade. This shift happens slowly, so most of you don't even notice it. But if you catch it early, the fix can be pretty simple and transitional. Maturing landscapes like this one it's been in 18 years, and all of a sudden, the plants that they relied on to make the ground plane look colorful and green and beautiful started looking bad. And that is because after 18 years, we had completely different exposures and a different landscape because of shade. These trees had grown, cast shade, and made it so that the original plantings weren't performing like they were supposed to. You can also have the opposite experience in an existing garden that all of a sudden has more sun because mature trees die or become sick. So in your own garden, be aware of changing exposures over time. So the first way to address increasing and debilitating shade is to keep your trees pruned, thinned, where you let in light. In so doing, you can keep all of your original plants. That technique was used here, but after time, even that became ineffective. It's true that over time, you might need to make major changes. You could remove trees, but usually the purpose of trees is to allow them to grow and then give us all of their benefits. The third option is to actually change the planting. And that's what we did here. We came up with this idea of using leaf color, and hopefully leaf color all year round, and shade-loving plants that would also take some sun here and there. If we wanted to replace the lawn to a new type of lawn that would be more shade tolerant, then we would take out the lawn in whatever way is the easiest. You can use a sod cutter, or you can even dig it out with a shovel. And then I would replant either with sod or seed, whatever makes the most sense depending on the time of the year. We now need to discuss something that many people get wrong in their landscape, either by accident or by design. When you pick out your plants, keep in mind their size, their texture, their color, their preferred exposure, or maybe their adaptability to all kinds of exposures. Since this used to have a lawn and low-growing roses, that scale of plant is really appropriate. So we picked things smaller than the existing plants, and the idea is these are going to get about 3 feet tall and grow into each other, and they basically stay this color all year round. And we have them in masses, so we have these interesting contrasts of color in the leaves. That is really pretty easily done as long as you do a little research into how big the plants get, what their strengths are in terms of color and texture. I like to look at lists. We can get lists from the internet, or we can get lists from books. Even though I know a lot of plants, sometimes all the appropriate ones don't come into my brain immediately. Even a great yard will slowly fall apart if you ignore this. It's not complicated at all, but if you aren't consistent and a little bit disciplined, it will show. Overgrown plants, weeds, bare soil, lack of tidiness, all of these come down to regular maintenance. So the way I avoid this is to have a regular maintenance schedule if that's how you work best, or maybe you don't even think about it. Maybe you're like me, whenever you're outside, you're doing something, there's not a certain day and a certain time. If you design a garden to be low on maintenance, it's very likely that the schedule doesn't have to be that often. I mean, many can have maintenance every other week or every third week and still look pretty good. And then there's others that are on the higher end, maybe with lawns and annuals and flowers and things that require more ongoing maintenance. So pruning is important, and one important part of pruning is to make sure you can get where you need to be so you don't get hit in the face with a branch when you go to your front door or try to sit on your bench. So you're always looking at how you're using your landscape and pruning to make sure everything's clear. But when you make those cuts, mostly in a landscape, you're going to be doing thinning cuts, and you're going to be allowing light to come in, kind of clearing out the center of trees, and maybe raising them up so they look like you want them to look, and so you can walk underneath. A thinning cut is when you cut a branch off all the way back to where it originates rather than just cutting it in half. People look at me like I'm crazy when I say you can train your yard to not have weeds, but you can train your yard to not have weeds with the combination of mulching, removing weeds as soon as they come up, and not allowing a lot of weeds to go to seed. If you don't want to pull, you can spray weeds. You might want to stay away from toxic products that aren't good for soil, but there are some less toxic products that are considered organic. A product called Avenger, made from citrus peels. So replenishing mulch does suppress weeds. That's a big advantage. It also does a lot of other things. It moderates temperatures. They also break down slowly and enrich the soil. In terms of how often you need to apply it, it just depends on what kind of mulch you use, what your maintenance practices are, and how it maintains itself. No more often than once a year, but you can probably do every other year. The next problem is one that affects even experienced gardeners. It can be frustrating. There's problems that occur when you overwater and problems when you underwater, and they look very similar a lot of times, and it's hard to tell which you're doing. Make sure that we have maybe some moistness on top, but never real heavy saturated soil. You just need to constantly check your plants, observe your plants, and check your soil. You can simply use your finger. We can go anywhere where we know roots are and try to scrape around in there, or use a shovel and see what the soil is like. And this looks pretty darn good. We've had rain here. I knew it was going to be wet, and this is very nicely wet. It's not, we don't have standing water. We have just very moist soil, appropriate for it having just rained. Or a soil probe. Use your probe, and you can go pretty deep with it, usually like that. It's real obvious right away. Sometimes it comes out with dripping water. Sometimes it comes out dry, like it'll be moist right here and dry the rest of the way, and you're not getting penetration. When it's dry, you can see exactly where it dries out. In this case, it's moist all the way. So this is a great core, and I would say nothing is wrong here. So I can't tell you exactly how much to water, because everyone's systems deliver water at a different rate, and everyone has different soil, and everyone has different plants. So it's an impossible thing to do, but we can give you some guidelines. We want to water as little as possible and have everything look good. So we don't want the kind of thinking that says, well, it's really hot, so if I want to be good to my plants, I'm going to water a lot. So if you determine that you are overwatering, then there's two ways to adjust it. You can either reduce the duration of the watering but keep the frequencies the same, or you can decrease the frequencies. A lot of that'll depend on your soil. In a sandy soil, you need pretty frequent watering because it dries out fast. And in a clay soil, you need more infrequent watering because it gets very wet and doesn't drain quickly. If you have seriously overwatered and now go to proper watering, it's going to take a while for everything to look better. Then you're not going to be necessarily looking at the plants. You're going to be looking at the soil, using your soil probe and just focusing on getting that soil moisture correct, not celebrating how much better the plants look immediately, because they'll probably take a while to improve. At this landscape, they expressed to me a lack of pressure, and so they said, our system's not working properly. Can you address the lack of pressure? Lack of pressure can be caused by a lot of things, and in this case, after 18 years of overgrowth and hidden sprinklers, it was difficult to see, but there were broken sprinklers in spots that you couldn't tell Over time, irrigation systems will have problems. And the best way, which almost nobody does, is a regular check of your system, or if you have a gardener, the gardener turning them on all the time. So if you are confused about whether your landscape and garden needs a drink or a lifeguard, maybe just subscribe to our channel. Most importantly, it's free. The next issue is sneakier. It can make your garden and your landscape look dry, dull, and barren, even if you're doing everything else right. And this is connected to maintenance. It is soil health. Soil health is a big part of having your garden look good all the time, and ignoring soil health does allow it to fall into kind of a listless look without vitality, and that's what we want to avoid. We also want to promote proper growth, because as in this one, a lot of the potential of this garden is going to be in the growth of the plants. We want these small little grassy-like plants to grow together and create almost like a grassy ground cover, and that is all dependent on soil health. We define soil health as being life in the soil, so beneficial bacteria, fungi, protozoa, good nematodes. Focusing on soil health decreases pests dramatically. It decreases all kinds of diseases. It increases vitality. It increases bloom. It increases healthy growth. It helps prevent weeds. It helps with moisture retention, and that frequently is overlooked because we go to a model of just feeding plants. Focusing on the beneficial life in your soil is one of the major ways to make sure your landscape never looks unhealthy. So in this landscape, we are using our blend, which is a proportional mix of optimized, nourished biosol, and maximized. And we use penetrate liquid biotiller, which jumpstarts the whole process and does all kinds of things for the soil in terms of allowing it to develop complex life. Many times in landscapes and gardens, you see that whole process of taking care of your soil end once your installation is over. What our system of products does is allows you to keep focusing on soil health. For most landscapes, I do recommend using blend and penetrate twice a year. You can scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description. If you tackle all the issues we covered today, your landscape could make a serious comeback. But here's the thing, even with everything else dialed in, there are some plants I wouldn't use under any circumstance. If you think one of those might be lurking in your landscape, or you just want better alternatives, click the video right here. I'll show you exactly what to rip out and what to plant instead.